Hey guys, welcome to Herding Little Cows to the Glory of God. My name is Sarah. I'm married to Mark. We have 10 kids, 8 at home. We've been married for 22 years. So we do not have everything all together. And the reason I'm making these videos are things that I wish that I had known when we first got married, things that we've learned over the years. And we don't do things perfectly, but we want to cultivate a biblical home and teach our kids God's word above anything else. And so I've had a few people contact me and are asking how do they go about trying to make some changes when maybe they have done things differently from a biblical home over the years. Maybe they are new Christians. Maybe they just haven't been teaching that at home. I grew up in a home where we went to church on Sunday mornings and then we came home and put our Bibles on the shelf. And so I had a lot of things to learn when I first got married. So we have just done things over the years that we've changed. And these are the things that I would do if we were starting now. So in my home, I have a 17-year-old, a 14-year-old, 12-year-old, 9-year-old, 7-year-old. Some people just had birthdays, 5-year-old, 3-year-old, and a 7-month-old. So if I was starting now with the ages that I have, what would I do if we had been parenting differently, doing church differently, just not having Christian practices within our home? So the next step, the first things I would do was talk to my husband. I have a video about that. Be in prayer, get myself in the word. That might be doing it as a family, but if you don't have that established, getting yourself in the word. And then the next thing I would do is sit down with my children and apologize to them for not leading them in the ways of the Lord, for maybe just going with the knowledge that you had and God has now revealed something new to you, but being open and honest with them that there are going to be changes in your home because you want to honor God in all things. And you're sorry that some of these changes might be hard. It's going to be hard on everyone because it's the gate is narrow that leads to truth. And so it's easy to just do the things of the world, to go along with the world. And it is easy to get into bad parenting practices that aren't pointing our kids towards God. And so sitting down with them and just saying, guys, I'm sorry. As a family, we want to honor God. We want to walk in his ways and we want to make changes. And this is going to be, I'm not saying difficult in like, oh, we're like slogging through this. I'm not trying to say that. I'm trying to say being very intentional to point out sin in each other. And moms just know that this might mean kids pointing out where we're not doing something. Maybe we're being hypocritical in something we're saying. And our kids should do that with in a respectful way. But sometimes we need our kids to point out, Mom, you're having a bad attitude. And so that's going to be difficult. But apologizing for the knowledge that you didn't have or the things that you haven't been practicing, and make this a group effort. Guys, we want to honor God. We want to go to church. We want to be reading our Bibles. We want to see what God has for our family because we know that God's ways are higher than our ways, and we don't always understand in this world why God would do certain things. And so, it means that we're going to have to stop doing our sports on Sundays that are keeping us away from church, or stop making all those other plans. We're going to have to start putting aside a time every day where we can study the Bible as a family, where we can start praying together. And these aren't going to be all automatic changes. I'm not saying that. But really trying to see where God has our family going. And I think the next important step is getting your kids on board. So you know your kids. I don't know your kids. I can't tell you how your kids are going to react to this. But for me and my house, we've been going to church for a long time now. But when we first started going to church, we had, when we first got married, we already had a 6-year-old in the house because my husband has a son from a previous marriage. So my husband got saved when his son was 4, but we were both baby Christians for the first couple years of marriage. We started to grow. And so from about 6 to 8, our home life didn't necessarily look all that different. Like for our son being 6 to 8, our home life didn't necessarily look all that different from non-Christians. And so just saying to him, getting your kids on the same page of, we're not going to play this video game anymore because the violence in it is not pointing us to Christ. And I'm not saying that everything, like you can only play video games that have a biblical content. I'm not saying that. But are there things that you're doing within your household that are keeping you away from God? Are there things that are specifically evil? So are witchcraft, violence, swearing, those types of things. Are you inputting a lot of that into your household? Talking to your kids and saying, I'm sorry that we've allowed this to start. We even as a family have to do this now, even though we're trying to do this Cultivating a Biblical Home, because there are so many resources out there. And sometimes we'll start using a resource that we think is Christian that has much different leanings that I wouldn't say understand a true gospel. I'm not going to talk about any specific resources. Or maybe we'll be doing something that's not Christian that I think is good. So using another resource to learn about war or something like that, and having to stop partway through and saying, you guys, I'm sorry, but this book doesn't live up to the standards of what we're trying to do in our household. So we're going to have to stop this book. We've done that before. We've taken books back to the library because we're like, this is not going with our goals as a family. So just telling your kids why you're doing this next step, because you want to glorify God. And so if you have a husband who's on the same page, like we talked about in one of the first videos, this is a helpful time for you guys to all sit down as a family. If not, talk to your kids one-on-one, or just as the kids, whatever your husband would be comfortable with. But also as a family, we just personally sat down and made like a family creed, I guess you'd say. We're still working on it, but just talking about things like the Bible talks about not lying. And so we wrote down some verses about not lying. And then I can take the kids to a Bible verse to say, you were just lying. This is what it says. And now we need correction, whatever that is for your family. But talk to your kids about why you're going to be making these changes. Because if your kids, maybe your kids aren't even going to be on board with you saying we're going to make these changes. But if your kids know that this is an intentional thing and you're just not upending their lives for no reason, they might understand more. Even if they don't agree, they might understand, instead of it just seems like mom and dad are changing things and I don't know why. As long as they know why you're changing things, it might be easier to change them. So that is the next step. And we will see you guys next time for the next part of Cultivating a Biblical Home on Herding Little Cows to the Glory of God.